Dharma.
Hi. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, we are live and recording. Go right ahead, Lynn.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Eli, do we have attendance?
Yes, we do.
Do you want to?
You roll call?
Yeah.
Do we have?
Like, can you roll call? I'll do it. Lynn Song.
Here.
Dharma Ekman.
Here.
Molly Kleiman.
Here.
Kareem Moore.
Here.
Victoria Green.
Here.
And I didn't do it alphabetically, so all right.
Great.
So
Thank
we
you.
have a quorum.
Thank you. Great. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Anyone seconding? Molly seconding. Great. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, let's go ahead to roll
That's
call
a
vote.
yeah.
Okay.
Are you?
Trustee, I'm here. I'm back. Trustee Ackman.
Yes.
Trustee Green.
Yes.
Trustee Kleinman.
Yes.
Trustee Moore.
Here. Yes.
Trustee Song.
Yes. Great. We have an agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Okay, Dharma, and then a
Kareem
second.
second. Yeah.
Okay.
Discussion?
Trustee Ackman.
Yes.
Trustee Green.
Yes.
Trustee Kleinman.
Yes.
Trustee Moore.
Yes.
Trustee Song.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Okay, moving on to citizens' comments. Eli, do we have any citizens' comments?
Yes, we certainly do, although a smaller number. So let me pull those up here. Hang on just a moment. Okay, here we go. Hello, trustees, and thank you for your service to the library and to the community. I'm a big fan of the summer game, and I wanted to comment today that I know a handful of people using the library's Wi-Fi from the parking lot, and I wanted to comment that any boosting of the signal you might be able to accomplish would be quite helpful. In the parking lot at the Malice Creek branch, for instance, my phone doesn't pick up the Wi-Fi at all, and a fellow I know who works there on his laptop routinely has told me he has to park in certain strategic places and then sometimes has a reliable signal. Is it crazy to suggest the library make areas outside the branches more effective hotspots? You tell me. Thanks again, Lisa Nichols. Okay, and hang on just a minute.
Okay, there we go. All right, next up. Hello. I'm sure running a library is difficult enough in normal times. I can't imagine what difficult decisions would need to be made in times such as these. However, I do have a question for the library. I've noticed that the library has some downloadable knitting pattern books. Are there plans to expand downloads like these to sewing patterns or other downloadable maker type plans? Thank you again, Molly B. And yes, we certainly do. Okay, here's another question. To the AADL, or another comment, to the AADL board. I appreciate the effort that's gone into making the summer game interesting and enjoyable amidst this year's challenges. Thanks for doing the bummer game, the AADL TV programming, the contactless pickup of library materials, and especially the fine forgiveness. The best part of the game for me this year has been the badges that highlight the community collections. One thing I miss about normal library going is the, whoops, here comes Jamie. Is the new perusing the new bookshelves. I know it's possible to view new books, videos, music, and more via catalog search links lower down on the homepage, but could you come up with a better way to highlight new books as they become available? Tina Price. And I did respond to her with some links to some better searches. Okay, here's the next one. Hello. If the original goal of the summer game was to get people familiar with and using the library catalog more, then I am a success story. I had never used the online catalog before playing the summer game, but because of it, I have read books and I would never have otherwise discovered. My family and I request things all the time, and I've rediscovered my love of reading that I thought I didn't have time for after having kids. I'm not a big fan of summer, but the game gives me something to look forward to and enjoy to help me get through the season. I get challenged, learn new things, groan, or even laugh at clues and badge descriptions. There were years I joked that my kids were going to Camp Public Library because of all the programs we attended. Library swag fills our house. The bummer game made me smile at a time when little else did. So thank you. Thank you to the board of directors. Thank you to the entire staff of the AADL, an incredible, creative, and dedicated group of people. Thank you to the friends of the AADL for providing all of their support. I'm always bragging to out-of-town friends and relatives about the amazing library system we have in Ann Arbor. With gratitude, Rachel Newman, AKA Zekic Mom on the leaderboards. And then I have one last comment. Hi, my name is Thor, and I'm 11 years old. I have a few ideas on how the summer game could be more intriguing to more people and increase the number of people that play and read over the summer. My first idea would help the school system and is not related to the summer game, but could easily be. It is that schools could request multiple books at a time so that reading groups could happen and could go for more than the normal checkout and return time. Usually reading groups go for about half a trimester, at least at my school and grade. Next, maybe some books that are checked out could have codes in them to encourage reading and give extra points. Speaking of codes, the home codes map is very helpful for finding the home codes, but maybe the parks that have codes could be put on the map to help plan walks or bike rides and even drives that are meant to find more codes. Thank you for the summer game, Thor Ham. And those are all the comments we've received so far.
He has a job. He just has to let me know when he's old enough to work, right? We'll take you. Great ideas. Great idea.
Thank you, Eli. Eli, can you help remind folks how to submit additional citizens' comments throughout the meeting?
Sure. If you'd like to add a citizen's comment during the meeting, you're welcome to email us at ask@aadl.org. Or if you're watching the meeting on YouTube, you can leave a comment right there in the chat alongside the video, and we will be able to read that before at the citizens' comment section at the end of the meeting. So you can either email at ask@aadl.org, or you can comment. You can also call 327-4245, and that will leave a voicemail that will make it in to the meeting toward the end as well.
Great, thank you, Eli. Okay, moving on. Josie with financial reports.
So this is the first month of the new budget year, and so the financial reports look different. In this particular month, it's always an odd month because it's an accrual budget, so you see a very odd looking set of numbers consequently. But were there any questions about the check register before I move into the actual financials? Anybody? No? Okay. So the financial summary. So what you see is the cash, the tax receipts, and the fund balance. I'm sorry. Is it me echoing? Okay. The fund balance activity is the tax. What I want to say is tax receipts. Sorry. We're at the beginning of the year, and I wanted to remind you that we agreed, along with the city, the county, and various townships, to eliminate the penalty fee on tax payments to persons who did not get their taxes paid by August, to eliminate the 1% entirely, and reduce the penalty for people paying later in September by another fraction. So our actual amounts coming in these months, if you look back at other years, would look less, and it's because it is. And we knew that. We knew we would have that happen. But we have the liquidity in our account, our checking accounts, to accommodate this, to be able to pay the bills. So it looks as though we don't. From you looking at this, it looks as though we're not going to have enough money, but we do. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows, reminds everyone that we did agree to do that. We did agree to be a part of that. Everybody had to, or it wouldn't work. So we didn't quarrel with that. On page 20, there's for 1 month, the financial summary for 1 month. You see the revenue, that's the 1.4 million that has come in. And then the total cash receipts through July is 1.8. And then expenditures, the total cash expended is 1,975,179. And this is where people always get concerned. But remember, it is accrual. It's an accrual budget, so we're not short here. It's just the way we're giving this both pieces of information within the budget report the way you've requested. So it looks like we're short. We're not. So I just want to make sure everybody's good with that. And then the revenue over and under expenditures, the actual cash receipts are at 10.46% of the budget, and the actual cash expended is 11.1%. 0.08% of the budget. That's cash receipts from July 1st to July 31st. That is not what's in our bank account. We have more, right? So we understand what that's about. Down below is an explanation of grants and memorials up into to this point at the beginning of July, where that was. The Friends have been somewhat active in online sales, and they've worked hard at making that possible. When the downtown closed due to our COVID positive, it stopped that because that was the only location where they were trying to do that. They know that we're back up and running, and I was out there today picking a book up for someone else, and I saw that some Friends books were out there to be picked up as well. So their model is the same as ours. These materials are paid for already and placed out there with a person's name on it. So it's not there's no cash handling anywhere by anyone in order to make this happen, which is, we really appreciated their thinking on that. So the state revenues and expenditures on page 21 for the general fund. This gives you a better sense of the budget itself, what our actual July expenditures were, what the budget was, the year-to-date actuals, and how much is remaining. And so you can see in the year-to-date percentages, we have a long way to go to be in any kind of concern or worry. But this is, as we take it from this month to the next month to the next month and watch this changing, it helps show how that accrual works over the 12 months. And we've established, we're required to do accrual budgeting, but trying to show it in more than one way so that we can actually see what we're spending money on is helpful. I think it's helpful. It can be confusing, but I think it's actually helpful. On page 22, it's the statement of revenues and expenditures for the governmental fund. So this pulls that up one level. So the general fund is the operating budget. The capital fund is anything that we have in the that capital fund that we might be using the money for the capital outlay. And the restricted grants are anything that is endowment. And the Carolina Holtree money is endowed, and some of the other funds are acting as endowments. So we're not able to expend them all the way to zero, and we must maintain a certain balance. So that shows up there. And then our total governmental funds, all the way down to the end fund balance, the end of the year, all of it together was $10.788 million. And so that helps you see the financial health of the library. And I think it's important at the beginning of this fiscal year to know what our financial health is as we move through this year, because when property valuations begin to start happening by the Board of Review in December, we'll be paying back. And it's unclear, it's unknown what that'll look like and how much that'll be. That money will come from the fund balance, because that's where it's free money, not free. It's where it's unencumbered funds. That's what I'm trying to say, not free money, unencumbered funds. And that's where we would pull that money into the budget to pay for those taxes. Page 23 is the balance sheet for the governmental funds. It explains it a little bit. It's the same thing explained out though for you. It's more like a balance sheet and assets, liabilities, deferred outflows, and what your fund balances are. And then it shows you the total liabilities and fund balances and what your total liabilities are. And this is, if this month is the really good month to get an idea of how this works, because it's not such big numbers everywhere, and it showing how it flows. The prepaid items, the permanent corpus, the $325,000, that's the Holtree amount. The restricted by donor, that's the rest of the money that's been given to the library. The money from the ladies for the screen, plus the other $50,000, plus some of the other smaller endowment funds are in that. And committed for capital projects is showing in there. What we've committed to spend on primarily on the downtown library is in there, so that you can see what the fund balance money would be going for. So questions let's get to. And that is the budget, unless there are any questions. I will tell you the auditors will be in the library next week, all week, for doing the beginning of the work for the audit last year. And so we're moving through that process. They've gotten a lot of information already. They sent their lists to Manor, and Manor has staff at the library pulling documents and getting ready. So they'll be on site. They chose to be on site. We're able to give them a place where they can be distanced from each other and not exposed to staff except coming in and out the back. And they'll mask and they do our entry questionnaire. So all that's required and done. They required that we have those before they would come in. And so we required that they do it. So we're working that out. They hope to turn the audit around by the October board meeting. So we were able to get our assets work done earlier this year than last year. So we shouldn't be held up on that as long as it's coming in when we hope it is. So we might get that audit report in October. That happens occasionally. It's almost always been November, but hopefully this time it'll be October. Any questions about the budget or anything to do with budgeting? Anything?
I just have one question, Josie. I note that our salary expenses, which are, of course, a very large expense, are less than, on page 21, are less than 1/12 of our anticipated budget. Is that something that you expect to correct over time, that we have a few positions, I don't know, maybe temps we haven't hired as much? Or do you think that we're going to come under our budgeted amount?
I don't know that we'll come under. We have some positions that we held back because of COVID. We held them out of the budget because we weren't sure at all what it was going to look like. And I think I'd have to, the total amount for personnel is the salaries, the benefits, and the taxes added together. So you put all those things together, and that's, you're looking at a month's expenditure there.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a month. So you got to multiply that. And that comes out somewhere in the 65 to 70% of the budget, somewhere in there, which is very healthy for a government unit. Salary and wages to be less than 80% of its budget. So I'm comfortable with that number.
Yeah, I was focused on the fact that the salaries were less than 8.33%, 1/12. But there might be, it's only 1 month of data, and there might be some seasonal
remember
fluctuations.
the cost of finance services is not in this.
Yep.
So that's being paid. That's a contract. So
Right.
that
We're
manager,
not budgeting for it either.
not as a person, no.
Mhm.
And there are a couple of open full-time positions that we held out of this budget. And I think we probably budgeted for the same amount of casual as we normally would, because we were hoping in July that we'd be up and going in September, right? And we're not going to be totally there. So it is less. It's not an increase in the budget from last year at all. And that was purposeful because we weren't sure what we were going to be looking at.
Thank you, Josie.
I also will be truthful. I wanted this budget, this budget, to be as close to absolutely necessary to run the library well as we can make it, so that the following year, when we see a drop in resources, cutting the staff is not the first place to go, and looking for those resources. So I'm trying to operate in a very lean way to keep from having to go to the staff number right away, which is common. I'd rather not do that. So that's why it's like this.
Thank you, Josie.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you.
Well, actually, can I ask one quick?
Of course.
Josie, I know I've asked this before, but have you heard of other libraries are they seeking Headley overrides or any other municipalities?
It's common normally. Libraries have done it. Other municipalities have done it. Generally not when the economy is plummeting,
Right.
because it's hard to get people to tax themselves in a very unsure environment. But the community college in Washington County has done it successfully. The public schools in Ann Arbor have done it successfully. I don't think any district library in the counties had to do it. I think all of them have had successful millages and renewals. Ours is the only perpetual millage left in Washington County. So every other public library in the district, in the county, must go for periodic renewals. And if any of them failed, they went right back out as soon as they could and were able to get their millages renewed. So I honestly don't think locally there's been a Headley. I know
Madison Heights had a Headley override, but that was back in 2011.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know in the state it's happened, but I don't think, generally libraries have not had to. So,
but maybe it'll be something, once the recession is over and future board.
Right, because we're a lot less, we're levying less than, far less than what was allowed in the millage vote in the 90s. So you're right. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I always like talking about Headley. I don't think we talk about Headley enough.
Well, the unintended consequences to Headley, right, was to stop people from being taxed out of their homes. And then once the crisis is over and the economy rebounds, there's no adjustment back for government units. They're stuck in that lower levy, and they can't really operate on it. They can't grow. And so there have been legislative attempts to go back in and do that again, which have not been successful. So
it'd be interesting to see what we can do, what the board can do in the future if it's a survey. We did the EPIC MRA on the a potential millage or bond, but we didn't do one on a Headley override.
Not per se. No, we did not.
All right, great. Thank you, Josie. Are there
Welcome.
any other questions for Josie for the finance reports? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go right back to, because the executive committee did not meet. I think we have a pretty light agenda, so we didn't see a reason to meet. So let's just go ahead if you're ready.
Okay. Eli's going to bring out the slides for the director's report, and I will say, going into this director's report, it's positive. We purposely tried to make this. It's been positive, and so we wanted to keep it because everybody needs that right now. So we're going to keep it positive. So go ahead, Eli. So the first thing, of course, oops, too many clicks.
Can everyone see it?
I can see it. Yep.
Okay. Go right ahead, Josie.
So the first slide, so I don't see how to advance it. You're going to advance it. Okay. The first slide is obviously the summer code, the game code for tonight, August chambers. This is the code for this evening's board member meeting. We wanted to continue using the service phasing plan at the beginning of my reports, just as we move through everything, as reminders for you all about where we are exactly. Now that we are back downtown, it reopened on this past Friday, service downtown. So we're still in 4. The drop boxes are open everywhere. Pickup appointments are happening everywhere. Pickup appointment hours are 12 to 8. We are finding this confusing people. We are not open, but we are. So when we say we're open, for people who aren't looking at us online, and that is a surprising number of people, they think we're open, and we're not. You may come in to the vestibules between 12 and 8 at any location, and if you requested it and you've got an appointment, and pick your material up. But that's as far as you can advance into the buildings. So that's still the case. We have done a lot of messaging around this, but we're not reaching those people who rely on print, and we're sorry. We're sorry. Our call center hours are the same, 12 to 8, 7 days. A person may call and get an actual staff member on the phone in real time. And that person happens to be at their home, talking to you from their home on the phone about the library, but they're there for you and people can get their help. Contactless printing service is going. The no computer helpline, we're doing that through outreach, and that is about a person's in not having computing available at all, trying to conduct life business, and we're helping them to sort through and do that. We've had about 30 different patrons over since we started this in the last board meeting. So this is pretty successful because this is not general searching and helping. This is about, I've lost my social security card. I need to apply for a new one. How do I do that? That kind of thing. The staff, we've got the staff PPE and notification procedures. That's all still in place. I think you can share my joy in that I COVID positive within the system, quarantined 12 other people, but did not result in any spread. So we're so happy about that. I think it's helped everyone on staff even realize more how important it is that we are so demanding about the masks and distance and hand washing. And so having that actually happen that way reinforced this is what we're doing and why we're doing it. So, and our staff person is still out and recovering. Once Region 1, which is Southeast Michigan, moves to 5, we'll have limited open hours where a person may advance into the building. Public computing, and we'll have to do that in compliance with whatever distancing requirements are in place by executive order for that to happen in a library. Shelf browsing and self-checkout. We will not have our circ desk open, but self-checkout will occur. We won't have in-person events, no meeting room bookings. Exhibits will resume though, because I think people are looking for a way to be in the library and feel like they can be in the library, but it won't be programming. And then 6 is regular library hours, open seating, in-person events, all staff back to working in the buildings, meeting room bookings and rentals. It'll be, my desire is to say it will be business as usual, but we know it won't. It won't ever be again in the same way. And we're not sure yet ourselves what that looks like. And we'll know it when we see it and as we move through it. What works, what doesn't, what is the public asking of us in terms of their safety in the space? What do we want to make sure we create in terms of a safe space and how those things work together? So we have a lot, I think we're all going to be learning a lot as we move. I think it also is going to be driven by what happens with universities reopening and what that experience is. And we'll all be paying close attention to that, of course. So pick up appointments. This is our update from last month. So I wanted you to see this. In June, when we opened in the middle of the month, there were 51,000, or I'm rounding, 51,000 requests on items. There were 11,000 pickups of material. So you can request material that's not available. It's not on the shelf. So that's why there are far more of those. July had 84,000 requests and 71,000 pickups. This is way better in terms of getting people what they're getting hold of. In August, which is a projection, it's 96,000 requests, and the pickups is 86,000. So we are doing better. And so about 10,000 patrons picked up 127,000 items since the middle of June. And we have checked out about 165,000, 166,000 items since June. That is, that's pretty close to normal. Eli and I were talking about this today. With a collection of about 600,000 items, a third of it, right, Eli, is out most of the time?
Yeah, that's right.
And so this is close. And so we're, and what we would say to you to notice about this, because if anyone on the staff is watching this, who's worked for the library for a long time, they're like, whoa, because August is usually like drop down to nothing business, like, ugh. And to have this much going on in August is pretty indicative of what's happening, what's changed around us in the general use of the library and the general use of general life. But that's an astonishing number, and so we're seeing that number change. So we're busy. We're busy. This one is the one we talked about, the pickup appointments update, and showing the percentage change since July of 20, the same thing from 7/20/2020. So total requests downtown dropped 9%. But if you go down and look through the all the list, overall, we had no change in total requests in this time period. The active requests were only up a couple percent. But here's the good news. The items on the paging list overall dropped 36%. So in library talk, that's the list that we're pulling material to fill. So to have that going down that much and to not have the requests going up any more than they have, it means we're catching up. We had a ton to catch up to, but we're catching up. So this is incredibly encouraging for us and for anyone from the public watching and who's waiting on an item. The one thing I will say here, and I'll say it now because I think it's important for you, the Michigan, the mail delivery service and the statewide lending service, MailCat, has resumed, but the AADL has not resumed the service. And we are delaying resumption of MailCat until we can resolve our own paging list of our own material for our local patrons. Because what we would be doing would be pulling our material to send out across the state, and that would take away our time and our effort of resolving our paging list. So until we get our paging list close to resolved, we're holding back on opening up for statewide lending. This will be a disappointment. We have some patrons who really love and use MailCat, and they are waiting for that. But we felt like we had a greater mandate to get our internal paging list down before we add more work to the paging list. So if a person questions you about this, we're happy to talk to them about it. We absolutely will get back into MailCat. We are committed to that, but we need more time. And the thing I'd ask people to understand is that there are only there are a very, very small number of libraries in the state of Michigan that come close to our circulation numbers. And so saying that some library here or some libraries there is doing it, why can't my library do it? It's a question of volume and demand. And so, and that's that place where the popularity of your collection and the high use of your collection is sort of a counter for those folks who want another service, but we just can't add it on right now. So, okay, thank you. So AADL TV update, this is where it gets really fun. 1.7 million video impressions since we launched this on March 4th, 15th, 16th or 17th. 140,000 videos viewed since then, and 55% of those viewed are the story times and the Saturday show. Interesting. Our call for artists, Black Lives Matter, ends this evening. As of 5 p.m. today, we had 26 artist statements. We expect to receive more before we end at midnight. Our review panel is Omari Rush, Marionetta Porter, Rochelle Riley, Jamal Bufford, and there will be some people from the AADL staff involved as well. Our book discussions, we generally do 2 books, a movie, a podcast discussion per week. So Wednesday of this week is The Fire This Time by Jessamine Ward, which is an essay collection. And then Thursday the 20th, we'll do The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin, which is the book she used to determine her approach to the essays now about the same issue that he wrote about such a long time ago. And Monday, the 24th, we'll do the Farthest Time again. And anyone is welcome to attend them, to participate in them, whether they've read the book or not. We're finding many people are doing that. So consequently, we're starting something new. We're going to do pre-recorded book discussions in production for posting on AADL TV on a number of these same books. Because what we're finding is that people are zooming in to listen to the conversation, but to not participate. So we decided to try this, to have people engaged in the book, talking together, knowing they're being recorded, and it's purposeful, and having this conversation done that way. So the first one is going to be I can't date Jesus. And so you can't date Jesus. So that's going to be the first one that's being done. And I'm not sure when it will be produced. So that's happening. So change there. I want to say too, I want to make a point of saying that Sherlanya Turner, the associate director here, has pretty much organized all of the book discussions around Black Lives Matter and been present at all of them. She's had some great help, real support from other people on staff, but Sherlanya has been the mainstay through this and has set the tone and is very much responsible for why this has become such an important part of what people see as the library's activity during this time. And I want to thank her publicly for doing it because it's a huge work. Thank you, Eli. And the next one is Welcome to Kami High. The Kami High documentary launched, and in conjunction with this, we have the Kami High online archive, which is historical photos and newspaper articles, the music database of CHH students and bands, and the first 30 years of the yearbooks of community high school are in our archives, and that's all just launched, and it's been very well received. Lots of good feedback about this. So I had one objection to the use of Kami, and I had to own that it wasn't something I made up and chose to do. So when it was okay. The summer game. Here's another piece of really good news. And if you look at this, as of today, 68% of we're up to 68% of the same number of players as last summer by this time. So 6,000 or so active players, but 90% of badges earned. So this is an active group of people, and 88% of the points, 91,580,000 points, and then 481 home codes created by players. And you heard a commenter talk about that a while ago about the maps or home codes and how people are going around choosing and finding all the home codes, and how much I think families have gotten into that. Kids have chosen their home code. So that was a really good idea for this year. I'm glad that someone was able to put that together. So, and then we have a new podcast, The Gayest Generation, hosted and developed by outreach tech Jacob Gorski. And Jacob, this was something he wanted to do, and he is interviewing LGBTQ elders to discuss their lives and experiences, laying down the foundation for the freedoms we have today. And this is, I think we're, Eli, you know when this is live?
It is live now. The first episode is already out.
I thought the first one was already out, so you get a chance to look at it.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Yep, it's wherever you get your podcast. So we're happy that this is happening. We want to thank Jacob for coming up with this idea, working with tech to make it happen, and having people willing to have this conversation in a way that will be archived and kept. The Lego contest. We didn't need a ballroom to do the Lego contest. Who knew? So it's virtual, and submissions close at midnight tonight. We already have a little over 200 entries. And the award ceremony is live on AADL TV Sunday at 4 o'clock. So if you still are trying to get your Lego contest entry in, you have a few hours. I'm very happy about this. And so this is our comments portion. So I want you all to notice that this postcard was written by none other than Jamie Vanderbroek. And the U of M Library and the ADL are inviting everyone in the community to create a postcard that they would send to their future self. And what would it say and what would it look like? And we're going to digitize them, and they'll be held as physical artifacts by the university. But we're going to digitize them and lift them up. So they'll be mailed into AADL. So if you would like to do a postcard size note to yourself, and however you want to draw or create on it, photographs or whatever, we welcome you to do so. And I like Jamie's very much. This is a card. This came to me. Someone sent this to me from a trip to a lake, and they had a nice picnic with family. And if it hadn't been for ADL, I don't know what they would have done, because they carried ADL swag to the lake. So clearly. And this one, I will be honest with you, and I hope this person's watching. A large cup of the Ann Arbor. I can't read the whole thing. Sorry. This person checked the sewing machine out and has been able to keep it the whole time, and has sewn and made many outfits and dresses and tops and skirts. But what I really love about this comment is she named her sewing machine. Her sewing machine is Violet. And I have had a sewing machine for 40 years. And I have to say, I have to apologize to my sewing machine. It never occurred to me that my sewing machine deserved a name. So I've spent the whole afternoon trying to think of what would I call my sewing machine if I were going to name it now. So I'll stay tuned, because I may come up with a sewing machine name. I love this. So, and this person's thanking us for contactless pickup for cookbooks. And here are the results, the cookbooks. And another person just letting us know they miss being in the library, and their astonishment at how much they've used it and how important it's become in their lives, especially even on a Friday night with a rat playing the piano. So, and that's the director's report. If you have questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I think I got it, right? I didn't think I left anything out, did I, Eli? Got it?
Nope, got it.
Got it. I will say one more thing to you, just so you know. The negative comments regarding the library's position around supporting efforts to bring forward the reality of anti-Black racism and systemic racism in our country have been well received. The negative comments or negative concerns about it are almost don't exist. There's so few of them. So I wanted to say that to you. You should know that. And those that have occurred have been a few people with repeated efforts to make sure that what they feel is heard. And we always respond. We never dismiss. You know that. But you should know that it's been very well supported. Also, the library's closure downtown due to a COVID positive. If you looked at the blog posts and the blog comments, we didn't have anyone mad at us for making such a decision at all. Not at all. And so I wanted you to know that too. That's really helpful when you're in a position we're in right now, trying to make your way through something you've never been involved, never done before, and hope you never are again. But it's very helpful knowing the people you're here to serve appreciate that you are trying to do it safely. So I wanted you to know that from me. So that is my report, unless you have a question. Thank you.
Oh, Josie, can you speak to how we were able to, because the downtown branch was a polling site last week?
Oh, it continued. So what we did is we worked with the city. Sorry. Here's what happened. I'm watching that light behind me, and I think it's a problem for you guys. We did not close the library because there was a COVID positive. The county health department's been really clear with us about that. Just because someone on staff is COVID positive does not mean the library must close down. The difficulty with this situation is the person who was sick was on the team that's pulling material and getting it ready and putting it out for pickup. So when you pull that team for quarantine, you do not have anyone to do that work. So that service had to stop because what we did not want to do was pull people from other buildings who are also working in isolated teams and bring them into downtown and mix our teams. So we made the decision to stop the service. So, so that meant there was no problem with voting occurring because it wasn't about the building not being safe. It was the service we couldn't perform the work. So the downtown library was used for voting, as was Pittsfield branch. And those are the two locations that generally are. So that's how that went. There was, it was quite interesting because they were in the lobby area. They were in the Lobitorium area. I think they had more people for this election than they've had for one in quite a while. So it was, there were people there almost all day at certain times of day moving through voting. So always go down and welcome them and see if they need anything. And I go down again around lunchtime and then they let me know how it's going. And they were very pleased with how it's going. So the other thing that's happening out front of the library and has been now for most of this past month is the census work. Persons who are doing the census are outside asking people if they've completed the census from that area, that geographical area, because they're showing a low response rate in that precinct, in that voting area. So they were asking people, and they have their laptops so people can do it right then. So they're able to get it done. I talked to the woman there today, and she had several people already that she was helping, that she helped do that. They've got an umbrella, sun umbrella. We've, because we're not open, they're able to move around in the front of the library to, where the shade is at any given time and not be in the hot sun if they can avoid it. So we've been real lenient about that. And the staff have helped them when they need it for that. So yep, that's happening. Does that help, Lynn? Does that answer your question?
It does. I was just wondering how that worked out with our COVID positive test. So I'm glad people were still coming out to vote.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That once people understood that the closure wasn't about the positive itself, but about not being able to get the work done, that was fine.
Great. Thank you.
I have
Do we
a
have any
question.
other? Yep.
Yeah, my question's also, it's similar. I'm curious if there's anything you would do differently next time, either about like the work team configurations or.
Yep.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, you're right, Jamie. As a matter of fact, we had the Monday after this, all happened. Admin, we call it, which is managers and admin, meet every Monday. And we talked about how to schedule and how to bring people back to work. Because we've had people, we're slowly bringing people back into work. So we're pulling people back to work. And by bringing people back to work, we're able to develop more two teams. And they're trying to see how to make that work. So we're trying to keep there from being a huge overlap in time with those two teams because you have to distance out the work. One of the things that is happening in libraries around is that they're having to take their public space and make it staff space in order to accomplish this distancing. And we haven't really had to do that yet, not so much in the downtown where we have the space. We have definitely done it in the branches. It's gone out through all the space. So our next move then is to move people out into the public spaces on the floors where their teams work. The other thing we're doing is we're isolating teams to floors downtown based on what your work is. You come in, you check in, you go to your floor, and that's where you work. You do not migrate around in the building during the day. And I don't go branch to branch. I love doing that. It's my habit. I haven't done that for months, and so that's just part of. I don't interact with that team directly, physically, because then it's compromise. So yes, we're looking very hard. There's 3, Shirlanya and Lynn and Sarah Waddell are working together on how to come up with a schedule that gives us more flexibility in teams so that if we do have this happen again, we don't have to close. So yes, yeah, we are. Good question, thank you. Hopefully we can make it work. So, yeah. Any others? Thank you. All right, thank you, Lynn.
Great, thank you. Gypsy, do you have birds in the background? Is
I'm sorry, I have my back door open. I do. Is it a problem? Do you want me to shut the door?
I don't know. Are folks okay?
Is it a problem?
I don't think so. I was just curious as to where it was coming from.
It's herons, and they're loud, and ducks. You're hearing maybe some, and then some songbirds. I can shut the door. I had it open because it was more comfortable.
Enjoy the weather while you can.
I'm sorry. I didn't think. I have on my earbuds, so I'm not sure how loud they are, but I can definitely. Okay.
I think it gives this meeting a bit of character. It's exciting.
Okay.
Lynn, do you mind if I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Josie, thank you for being so kind about my postcard.
I love your postcard. Your postcard. I showed your postcard. I showed the picture of your postcard to my granddaughter, who's an artist. She's a 6-year-old artist.
Oh, that's sweet.
And she said, "Oh, the wings are fluttering."
Oh,
so,
yeah, that's like
whether
like
you intended it or not. But she said, "Oh, Jojo, the wings are fluttering," and I told her, "I know the person who did this."
Well, I can't take credit for all the pieces and parts of it, but so that program is the idea of a colleague of mine who doesn't work in the book art studio at all, but she came to me early in the pandemic and said she wanted to do it, and I thought it was an awesome idea. But then she was on vacation the week that the publicity launched, and they were like, "We need something."
No, I'm so glad you did that.
To make something really quickly. So you were very kind to acknowledge it and be so nice.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you both. Let's see, let's go ahead and move on to old business with Len. We have an update on our construction projects. Len?
Yes.
Where are you, Len?
I'm here.
Okay, there you are. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing well. So just an update. I thought about this after the last board meeting. So we keep talking about some of the old projects. I think it's worth mentioning the branch meeting room projects and the 4th floor meeting room project. They're really the original scope of work on both of those. It's complete. The things we're doing are the other the scope increases. So currently on the branch meeting rooms, we have the acoustic panels installed at Mallets Creek. The work that's going on right now is at Traverwood for the program room doors. We've received the hardware. They're starting this week with some of the soffit work in there. The doors have already been pulled down. So that work is, it's addition to that. So we're still calling it the branch meeting room projects, although that work's really done and it's been completed. So Traverwood has the program room doors and that storage room in the garage area. We've received materials for that. The roll-up door has been ordered, so we can get going on that pretty soon. And then the 4th floor meeting room, I'm going to say is 95, 97% complete. The work is all done, and we're doing cabling, wiring, and the AV equipment now, which was the last scope increase, the last resolution we had at the July meeting. So, and then the last project, the big one we have is the generators that is out to bid. The bid closes this week. So there'll be a lot of information over the next few weeks and a lot of discussion, vetting some of those numbers, contractors, that type of thing. And we'll get that information to you as soon as we can. But those are the big 3 projects we have right now. Any questions?
How have the buildings been with the recent storms? Have they held up? Have there been any water issues or?
No, not really. There's a couple, we have 2 lease spots, right? So our Westgate location and our archives location, they're not our buildings. So we have had a couple drip leaks here and there, but the management always responds well and addresses it. So these last few storms, we haven't had anything. We did have a minor leak at the archives. I guess about a month or so ago. The property managers came out and addressed it, and we think everything's okay. And the same thing at Westgate. If you get a really, really heavy storm and you get some ponding where, some drains haven't been cleaned out, every once in a while we'll get a leak. But overall, our buildings that we maintain and manage, we've been really fortunate. But, most of them are newer.
Yes.
You get a commercial building, usually the roof is about a 40 or 50-year life cycle. So most of our branches aren't even close to that. The downtown roof is the one that's probably in most need of replacement or repair. And we only have issues there if we get a westerly wind-driven rain and we get a little spot on the second floor from time to time. But no, we've held up pretty well. And fortunately, we've had fewer power outages, but we had one at Pittsfield a couple weeks ago. But with it just being staff, we were able to kind of push through and not close the building.
I like how precise you were with the westerly wind hitting a specific.
You always ask yourself, how did it happen? Why didn't it happen this time? And so, yes, we, Andre Williams, our maintenance lead now, we'll always have these conversations of why didn't it do it this time? And then it did it this time. Yes. So we've kind of figured it out. It's that wind that gets us every time.
Curse that wind. All right. Well, thank you for being so exact and attuned to all of our buildings needs. Anyone else have any questions for Len? No? All right. Well, thank you, Len.
No problem.
He'll be back under new business.
Yep, I'll be back.
Oh, okay. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
We'll see you in a bit then. Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you, guys.
So moving on to our Black Lives Matter.
I can give you an update from the request to seek IDI training for the board and senior management. I followed up on the recommendations and leads that various ones of you have given me. What I have found is that this is probably the busiest time ever for the people doing this work. And so some people didn't get back to me at all. Some people said, so sorry. I was able to have a really good conversation with Loretta Van Pelt, who did the work for us in the unconscious bias training. She also is an IDI assessment consultant. And she said, I can't do it for you. I have too much, but I know someone who can, who's excellent. She gave me the name of the gentleman, Michael Carter, who's the CEO and founder of Intercultural Competence Edge in Minneapolis. She gave him my name and phone number. He called me the next day. I have a proposal from him to do the IDI online assessments, coaching follow-up individually with everybody involved, and then a report to the institution of an overview aggregate of where the management team is with the board. So it would be the board, me, associate directors, managers, and supervisors. So about 25 people. And so I have this proposal. They have ability to do this fall, not push it out any further. And so I was going to go ahead and the pricing is good. So I was going to go ahead and to do that. He's very clear that the confidentiality that they extend to the individual is not ever breached. So none of us ever know what anyone else said. I don't know what anyone on staff said. What we do know is our overall place on the spectrum. And for those of you who have done this work, you know that there's a degrees of openness. That's pretty much the better word, openness and awareness of cultural differences and where we fall in that. And each of us get some more in-depth phone call and discussion and coaching from our answers. So as individuals, we as leaders get this coaching and support. The institution gets the benefit of everyone having that, as well as a knowledge of generally where we are and where our work is. And so that's what that does for us. And so I'm going to go forward to do that. So I wanted to make sure that was still the path that you wanted us to follow, and I'll get that organized, and then those online assessments can begin. We'll get the dates out for everybody. I'm sure it's a period of time enough that gives everybody a chance, and so we can get that done. So again, his name is Michael Carter from Minneapolis.
I think this is great.
Okay, great, good, glad.
Josie, and he knows that the board, if we receive results, that they have to be public.
They're not going to have anything like that.
So you won't do one for everyone.
No.
Okay, everything's individual.
That's why IDI, and I talked through this with Loretta, because she does more public entities than he does. He does a lot of big private companies. And IDI works for public institution because it's a one-on-one conversation. Okay. It's not recorded. And the results of that conversation are never revealed to anyone as identified to you. What they'll do is give us as an organization an overview of where we are generally without any details about who. And so that's what we'll get. So the actual real benefit is having leadership at this level go through this and be put in a position to answer these questions and then talk through their answers with someone they don't know, probably will never meet and will never talk to again. And with the confidence that I'm not going to know what they said, you're not going to know what they said, and then they'll come to work with that better understanding and knowledge of who they are and where they are in the spectrum of thinking about cultural differences and how to treat people better, even when you might treat them well. How do you treat them better? And so, and they come from that place, right? It's not an assumption that no one's doing anything well. It's not that at all. I appreciated that too when I talked to them about that. So they are very conscious of the fact that we're public, and so there is no written report.
Okay, I was curious about that.
No, I'll get a phone call. Yep.
Okay.
So, yep.
Is it possible to have new board members tested in January to reserve
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. We can do that. It's a per person cost,
right?
Up to a certain amount, and so we may decide at that point to bring other key staff and other roles here into it, and if we're satisfied with that service, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I reserved Loretta already for another round of unconscious bias training, and this is what Michael said. He said the thing that happens, Josie, is when I do these assessments and I go through and do this work, he said generally Loretta comes through and follows up with the unconscious bias workshop. And he said, you've done that. He said, so it'll be interesting then to see really where you all are, because she's done that ahead of us. And I think I've explained to you all how well received she was by everybody. What a great job she did. So that was my my piece on Black Lives Matter discussion this evening. If there was more.
No, I mean, thank you for organizing this and getting this to bid, to the bidding process, and also responding to community criticism on why the board and why the institution is focusing on this. And I'm glad to hear that the overwhelming opinion is actually in support.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Yes.
And it shouldn't be a new discussion, I don't think. I mean,
no.
Right.
And I think enough time has passed since we first launched our banner to that people are understanding this conversation is long overdue in ways that people didn't appreciate were, that clearly need to happen. And that whether a person is conscious of the need, it's now known to them there's a need, and what their feelings are about it, where they fit into it, that's personal and individual. But there's no denying at this point that there's a conversation that has to happen, and that we all have to own our own place and the responsibility in systemic racism. And so I think having the library be out front in that, leading on that in the way that it can, is appropriate as a public library where everyone's always been free to come to and use, and without question or regard to any classification. We talked it, now we have to walk it. So that's what we're doing.
We have this policy review committee that we formed in the last meeting. Can we just regroup on so we plan to wait until after we do this IDI assessment in the fall before
that's the next thing on the agenda is the board policy committee charge. No, that's okay. No, that's all right. I just, it's there.
Okay,
so
good.
But I just wanted to follow up the Black Lives Matter discussion was directly about this IDI assessment in general. And I wanted to follow that up and then to see if there was more or anything different you wanted response from me regarding this, what that might look like and how we might do that.
I have a question, and I don't know if this is appropriate to discuss now in this meeting or if this is something that we can discuss separately, that I've just been wondering about for a little while, which is I'm wondering how collection development works for the MTLS, the consortium because that's how we get our ebooks.
I am not as able to tell you about collection development for the consortium for the ebooks as I am able to talk about our own collection development. I can ask Sarah Waddell, our head of collections, at the next public meeting to discuss that with you, because one of the things I was going to say that you should know is, in addition to changing our security services to safety services, we've done that. We're also going to be doing an assessment of our collection in terms of when was it chosen, when was it selected, by whom, what are the subjects, what are the questionable representations in this matter, in these materials. And then once we have the assessment, then what then changes about how we collect. And one of the first areas we're going to start with is picture book collection, because the picture book collection goes back decades with super real popularity for material 40 years old. And we're going to begin there. And so collection development is, while that's an insider discussion, it has a huge impact on the public. And we've already started talking about how to start that process, how to start looking at that differently. So I'll have Sarah, and she's probably listening, so I'll have her talk at the next meeting. So it's a good question, Molly. I mean, the collection and the how we select is a big part of what we do, and asking that question is a good thing. So.
Hi, Sarah. We knew each other in grad school.
Oh well, so that's going to work out. Yep, that's great.
Thank you.
Yay. Any other questions? So we're looking at the collections. We've looked at how we look at safety and in the system. I think that the committee will be formed this evening to look at primarily to begin looking at the public behavior policies. And that's a good place to start right now because of what's happening with Black Lives Matter and policing. And it focuses on that, I think. So it's a good place to start.
Well, I know I have been looking at the archives more and more. I always feel like Ann Arbor has all these amazing, important discussions for generations. It's the same questions keep popping up, and it's really, really interesting to trace parents trying to figure out desegregation in the 60s and 70s and follow the legal work that pushed us to actually desegregate schools in the 80s. And it's been interesting talking to community members whose fathers, or like generations of Black families in the community who can speak directly to this experience. So I'd be interested to see how we can work the archives in any of the discussions. I don't know if that's an interest.
Well, we are currently, we're doing it. We'll be launching a Zoom launch of the next group of conversations with community members who lived through all of this, who talked about it. We're getting ready. Andrew told us this morning that we're getting ready to launch the next. So we usually have a reception and a public launch. So we're going to do it online. We're doing that. We're working with the African American Cultural and Historical Museum on another project, which is asking people to talk about systemic racism through the COVID crisis and their experience through that. And so, and what does that look like? That has been harder because I think that's emotional. That's new and raw and difficult. But they put in their newsletter a call for this as well. And I just received their newsletter this week, so I at home, so I saw it, and so I think we'll get some good response from that. But that's so personal, and I think it's going to take a little while for people to feel able to do that. But we are trying.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
but
go
you
ahead.
also, you have a previous project with that organization with the stories, like the living history.
The living history, that's right.
Which is really cool.
And it's still ongoing, yeah.
And the archives, I think, if you follow them on Instagram, have been, I think, it's been clear to me that they have been consciously more broadly representational than like typically you see historical photos of Ann Arbor. So I see that work happening for sure with the archives.
It's been deliberate to make sure that all of the communities represented in what's publicized from our archives. It's been very much deliberate. So real effort made that way.
Okay, so I need to get on Instagram, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I didn't mean to make it a commercial.
No, Lynn, it's hard to, we do a lot. And it's hard to know it all. I mean, it's hard. But I can reassure you that what we are trying to do, we're doing it equitably and with a real conscious effort in making sure that people looking at the archive and the history of Ann Arbor get the whole picture.
Yeah.
Get the whole picture.
Yeah, I really appreciate having that context and really understanding the community and the community history and how
Andrew McLaren and his team do a really great job. So.
There is also a archives Twitter, an AADL archives Twitter, so that, and they repost almost everything that the Instagram account posts. So it's for you.
Thank you. All right, so any other thoughts on this before we move on to the charge? Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate this rigorous discussion, as always. So next discussion is the resolution to establish a board policy committee, and the charge is on page 24. Can I have someone volunteer and read the charge? Or am I supposed to read the charge, Josie, since I am the one charging?
I think so, yes.
Okay. Let's see, what page is this? I'm losing myself on the agenda, I'm sorry. Page
24.
Let's see. Sorry,
it's in the resolution too, Lynn. If you can you find page 24?
Yeah, I'm just scrolling. My computer's really slow. Okay, there we go. The board resolves as follows: that the special policy committee consists of Corinne Moore, chairperson, Dharma Ackman, and Jamie Vanderbrook. That the charge to the policy committee is to review AADL building use policies for biases with an eye towards equity and public use that can be remedied with policy recommendations to the board for review and approval no later than December 2020. That all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded. And then we have,
You need a motion in a second.
yes, can I get a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Miss Second?
Second. Molly's waving.
Yeah, sorry. Hi.
Okay. And now you do your discussion.
Yes.
So my
Yeah.
thing is that December, and this was depending on what Josie could do as far as getting us IDI training, which it's great that she can get us training actually in the fall. So that is very promising. But my worry was that, you know, December isn't even really a full month. I definitely tap out about December 10th. So it's not realistic. It's possible that we would need an extension, and it doesn't have to be formally part of the motion, but just with an understanding that the committee may come to the board and request, you know, that the new board extend that work, or, you know, create a new term in January.
And that's totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah, the reasoning for the December deadline is really, it's me, it's not the work or the charge. It's that I will no longer be on the board past the end of this calendar year. So I can only give you a charge as long as I'm around. So, and then it's up
But we will, though, we can work. I mean, we can get work on the policy. We can get the policies to you. We can meet to talk about how they got how they became what they are, and so that for the historical context of it, I am meeting with members of the Human Rights Commission and the Independent Police Oversight Committee this week to talk about trespass ordinance and changes they're wanting to see made, and how the library uses it, and what it might. I mean, we don't disagree really about shortening trespass and that kind of thing, but they just need to hear from us about how we actually use it and what we don't do. I think it's more important about what we don't do, and so I'll be doing that this week. So I'm already beginning some of the conversations broader to bring into this conversation that you all will need to have. So.
Yeah, I think from the resolution language, it's flexible enough to, I mean, the charge is really to review the building use policies, and it's up to the board, and it's up to the committee to help, you know, present that to the board to see if it's actually gotten to the point where we need any remedies, right? So if the review has to continue in the next calendar year, then that's something the next board president can lead.
And it's possible, for sure, depending upon, it depends upon how other things happen in the community and other decisions that get made. If an ordinance changes, we have to respond to that. And so our policies have to reflect an adherence to that ordinance. So we have to deal with that. So, and that's always been true. And so whenever there's been a change like that, we've had to bring a policy change to the board. So this is a very good time to be looking at it.
What about the issue that came up last month or maybe the month before about, like, there's the behaving in the building, but then now we aren't in the buildings. And so some of the behavior, especially in all of these book discussions and things, is there's behaviors online, I guess. But, you know, so like the committee's charge is pretty specific to behavior in the buildings. And I just wonder if that's where we want it to be, or if we want it to be broader. Like, I don't think that you're really acting within the scope of a policy manual at the moment when you have events that are thoroughly and 100% online.
I think the way we've interpreted that, Jamie, is the way a person behaves in a public meeting in the building itself, if they're being out of turn, if they're being abusive or coarse or profane, We're treating that online the way we would treat that in the building. It's actually easier online because you just click them off. They're out of the meeting. It's a trespass and it's of a type, really. Right. So I think that could be part of the conversation for sure. And should there be added language? Should the title in the policy manual not be about building use, but serve at library? Some other way of framing it, which includes online, because we surely will be doing online now, for the foreseeable future, even by choice, not just as compelled, but by choice. So, good point.
Any other thoughts on this charge? Well, I'm excited to charge you with this work. I tried to charge you with this work last month, but we had to have a resolution.
Right.
So thank you for keeping us making this right, Josie.
You're welcome.
So if there's no further discussion, let's go ahead and go to roll call vote then, yes? Can
Okay. Trustee Ackman?
Yes.
Trustee Green? Victoria?
Sorry, I was muted.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Kleinman?
Yes.
Trustee Moore?
Yes.
Trustee Song? Did Lynn?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Trustee Vanderbroek?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Exciting. So we'll let Trustee Kareem lead that charge and see where we get to next month and have a bit of an update. And let's see. So I wish you best of luck and thank you so much for allowing me to volunteer you for this work.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on. In our agenda, I think we have Len coming back. Is that right?
Right. That's right.
Or no? Yes, we do. We do for pickup lockers. Or no? Is this no?
It's Lynn.
It should be 2 resolutions. The first one should be for youth restrooms and then branch lockers, I think is the way that's on there.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So can I have someone volunteer to read the first resolution and then we'll, or actually, yes. Do we have a volunteer to read the resolution?
I can read it.
Thank you.
I've used those bathrooms many times, those weird youth restrooms.
They're ready to be changed, Jamie.
The board resolves as follows: to authorize, I got to read a long number in front of everyone. Okay. $203,615 for building improvements from the capital fund for renovations of the downtown library youth restrooms. That all resolutions and parts resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded.
Great. Can I get,
A second.
Can I get a second, please?
I second.
And discussion.
And I'd let Lynn show you what he plans to do because he's got pictures.
Which is the youth bathroom? Is that the one that's
in the youth room downstairs in downtown library?
I guess I've literally never been there.
Yeah, if you come in from the main entrance, as soon as you walk into the youth, they're directly to your left. Yeah, so what we've got is this is the existing floor plan here. Both have doors. The smaller, I guess, of the two that was our handicap restroom until the first floor restrooms were renovated a couple years ago. So these were heavily used as our only handicap restroom for a long time. We wanted, the discussion at that time was, could we do both at the same time? We couldn't because we wouldn't have had any restrooms on the first floor downtown. So we've been talking about this for about a year. So yeah, the current floor plan, they have doors. It's not ideal. I think we probably made the handicap accessible push button door work, but it's not ideal. you can push the button from the outside, but then someone's in there. So our new plan, our new design is to go with barrier free. We've always wanted bathrooms without doors for safety reasons. And with COVID, it's just more important now to have those barrier free entrances where people can get in and out. The fact that this is youth, the discussion's been to bring the partitions down really close to the floor, just in case there's small children coming in and out. So we have some plans for that. And then, yeah, you can see the proposed. They're quite a bit bigger. And we're able to make ADA compliance with the space we have.
So these will be gender-free restrooms, both barrier-free, gender-free. And so there will be ability for parents to be in there with a door that shuts where the toilets are to keep small children with them while they need them to be with them, so they're not able to run out. The other one wasn't like that at all. So like you could lose your toddler when you were in the bathroom.
This is super.
This would be great to reduce the anxiety of being in the one where you cannot lock it.
Yeah, and you hope it's works.
Automatically locks.
Yep.
Wait, so I just want to make sure I understand the drawing, Len. It looks like we're actually extending the wall out a little bit to make it flat on the front, right?
Yeah,
We weren't using that corner for anything though, right? We're not, are we losing anything?
We're really not. So there is shelving on the exterior of that wall, but we're going to keep that shelving there. It just moves out. So on the existing floor plan to the left, it shows that square. Each one of those squares, the columns, those are about 20 feet apart. So we're going to come all the way over to that next column.
Got it.
We actually gain, there you go, perfect. So we actually gain wall space by doing this. So there'd be, if we want to use shelving all the way across that, we're going to increase the shelving in the youth department by doing this.
But if my understanding is correct, we do lose the big screen and we lose the big wall map, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Which are features that have been there since the late 1990s. And the wall map it's funny about the wall map. It works, but Ann Arbor's not on it. Never has been. And so it's one of those funny things, right, about the wall map. And so we're gonna be those will be coming down and out because of this. So
yeah, there's an access to that behind that atlas that if by moving that wall we won't be able to gain access. So the thought is to take that down, to look at that space again and really look at all of youth after this project and how to use that side of the space and the other side. So we have intentions of probably putting something back there. We just don't know what it is yet.
And I assume, Josie, that we don't see this as a huge loss to take down the map.
No.
I mean, it's the timing is dictated, but if we thought it was a critical service, we'd figure something else out.
Small children like to push the buttons, but they're not tall enough to see the lights light up that they push the button for. It's not like the light bright where you can actually make the change and see it happen in front of you. The wall has never worked. It's never worked for the children most interested in pushing the buttons. So it's not going to be, we're not going to hear about it at all. It would, unlike if you took away the fish tank, you would hear about it, rightly so. And we're not doing that, but this is not going to cause that kind of outcry, no.
Now you have me wondering how the fish are.
Fish are good. You need to know that there are people who work for the library who have made it their mandate through COVID to make sure those fish are the most well-fed, mollycoddled, perfectly temperature controlled fish tank in the universe. And we have gladly let them do that.
I'm so glad.
And they've taken ownership of it. They've been happy to do it. So there's a lot of other things could fall apart, but the fish are going to get fed. So
I'm very glad to hear that. I have another question that is not related to the fish. It looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like there's a low, like a kid height sink in one of the bathrooms. That's wonderful.
There is. So that's, you kind of look at the space that you have. That side of the restroom it's just longer because of where the elevator shaft is, and then where the staff restroom is on the other side. So it was either put like a mop closet or something in there. Well, we didn't want more doors in there. We didn't want another thing. And so it just made sense to do a 2-tier sink top where, you know, you could have a smaller person and a taller person using the sink at the same time.
It's one of my favorite features. So in the bathroom where there are lots of kids. So that's awesome.
Looks great.
I have kind of maybe it's, I've heard from some folks in my neighborhood who've always asked about the hand dryers. Some of the little kids are afraid of the noise from the hand dryers. I don't know if there are hand dryer alternatives or or if it's an issue that's been brought up before for other families, but are there, is it just a standard hand dryer that goes into kids?
No, most of them nowadays have where you can adjust the speed of the dryer itself. So we've adjusted ours all the way down. But as a parent, I'll say my daughter is deathly afraid of auto flush toilets, and it's not knowing. And she's, you know, so yes, between auto flushes and hand dryers, it's something we hear about. You know, it's when we reopened Westgate, it was more of a hot topic, but it's kind of gone away. We did dial them all back so the noise isn't, it's as low as it can be. But we, you know, when we have paper towel dispensers in our public restrooms, a lot of it gets flushed and then it causes a whole other problem. So we've kind of leaned on the hand dryers to stop that. But yeah,
also sustainable practice to use hand dryers rather than paper.
Yeah, but loud noises in restrooms is definitely something I hear about.
Thank you. I mean, I don't remember. My kids are so big now, so I don't think they've had long-lasting trauma from the hand dryers.
I think hand dryers have gotten louder.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Aren't they also being called into a little bit of question with, and I know that there's like a lot that we don't know about COVID-19.
Oh, in terms of the airflow?
Well, the bacteria so there's quite a few things you can read about bacteria that could be inside of the unit, and then it kicks on. And so there's, you know, you're saving paper. I mean, we clean ours. We do all the things we're supposed to do. And they have gotten louder, but I think that was an energy efficiency thing. I think the manufacturers, you know, threw this force of air out so it wouldn't run for a long time. But then they probably realized they needed to have that adjustment, which, like I said, when we redid the first 4 restrooms downtown, we did have to readjust the I think there's 3 in there. We had to tune them down a little bit.
Great, thank you. Are there any other thoughts or questions for Len before we go to vote?
I mean, I do just want to say that the map like from a design perspective, I have viewed the map as kind of holding the youth room back in its previous like era of appearance. So I'm frankly really happy to see it be able to be resolved as part of this project, because I think like you can do whatever you want with that corner now, and it's less like the map was a very dominant visual feature in the room. And like Josie's right, I've never seen Adl even walk up to it. It's hard to compete with the fish, but so, yay.
Good, thanks, Jamie.
Good. I think parents around the community will rejoice over this. This is super exciting. With that said, can we go ahead and go to roll call vote? Eli, can you help us with this?
Yep. Trustee Ackman?
Yes.
Trustee Green?
Yes.
Trustee Kleinman?
Yes.
Trustee Moore?
Yes.
Trustee Song?
Yes.
Trustee Vanderbroek?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you. Can I have a volunteer read the second resolution for Lynn on page 26?
I'll read.
Thank you.
Okay, the board resolves as follows: to authorize $135,000, $135,915 for building improvements from the capital fund to install material pickup lockers at the Traverwood and Westgate branch library locations. 2, that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded. That's it.
Great, thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. All right, discussion. Len, tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, so the image there is just, it's 2 banks. You order these in banks of 10, so 2 banks and a keypad. We currently have them at Mallards Creek and Pittsfield. They've always been a popular feature for Mallards Creek, for patrons that either late at night or really early in the morning before we open. They've used them, but with these closures and COVID, they've really taken off. We're using the Pittsfield lockers more than we ever have, and probably we ever dreamed of. It's a service that's just now it's more appealing, and trying to get materials out to patrons. We looked at all locations. It just wasn't doable downtown. We looked at Westgate and Traverwood, and we have the space where we can do it. And even though we're in the time we are, it'll be a service that's used after, if when we do go back to normal. These lockers will still be able to be requested, and they will be used, because we do have patrons. If you leave early in the morning to work or commute, a lot of people, Mallards Creek has been that spot where you'll drop off your material at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, but you can also get your locker pickup at the same time. So it's been a popular thing. The thing I'll say about this project is I think this will come in under budget. These are basically allowances to do some of the work. So working on this budget, we made sure we weren't going to have to come back in front of the board. But I do feel like this project here, if we install these, we will come in under budget on this one.
Len, when do you think assuming the board approves this, when would the earliest be that we might see these at the 2 branches?
If I can get the construction going I'd say within 60 days.
So they would still help us during the time we are likely to remain we're not stage 5 yet. So they would help us through the pandemic. And then I hear you suggesting that it's not just a pandemic response though, because we expect this to be a valuable service in the future as well.
Yeah. Traverwood's really easy. So we have the exterior wall at Traverwood. You can see it here in this image. So we already have a Dropbox room, and on the inside of the building, it's just an open room with bins, right? So this is opening up the interior wall. We have power and data right there, so there's no real infrastructure work. This is opening the wall, making sure the drawings are correct. There's no electrical, there's no plumbing in the wall, which none of the drawings show that. And that's just cutting a rough opening. So Traverwood really could be done very quickly. Westgate, on the other hand, because it's inside of the building, there is some fire suppression and some lighting. You see that pendulum lighting hanging down. So that'll go basically in that spot. That soft ceiling will have to be moved out. And there's actually going to be, there'll be a room built there that's probably about 5 feet deep, but it favors the TJ Maxx side, but it's right next to our return. So you'll have an extra kind of room there, and it'll just mirror our current Dropbox room. So this one's a little bit tougher because you can see you've got that soffit that comes down there, and there's fire suppression there that needs to be moved, and we'll probably have to have one in, one out, that type of stuff. So that we have a budget number for each of them. This one will probably take a little bit longer because the drawings, they have to be submitted for permits, so have to be a little more in depth. But Traverwood's a really easy one. If approval, I think that one can be done really quick.
So Len, the Traverwood one makes a lot of sense. I mean, that seems really easy. As you said, this one, we are losing something though. We're losing the light that comes in through that glass wall today, right?
Yeah, so it'll still be glass, and it's just they have it colored. So the glass directly to the left of where the locker image is showing, that's still going to be open, bringing light in. And then once you kind of take that corner to the green chair to the right there, that's all still going to be open. It really is. It's the 3 panes of glass right there by where the locker images is.
Will it be glass at the top, Lynn? Up at the top?
It will on the inside of the room, but on the outside, that's going to be drywall.
Okay. All right. So the drywall will go all the way up to the soffit.
Yeah.
Got it. So the light fixture will move to someplace else in the building.
Yeah, and it actually, standing in the space, the way that room will come out, it'll kind of mirror the line that the interior door has closest to TJ Maxx, because that has that soffit that comes out inside of the building. This room will mirror that design.
Okay. And it's also out of the weather. If a person's standing there using it, they're out of the weather. So
So considering that this was, a newer renovation, can I just ask what the thinking was in not putting these in from the start? Just given the fact that we're saying that they should be useful after too.
I can tell you the history on the Mallets Creek's always been successful. Pittsfield never has been. Pittsfield, when they first went in, we had a really hard time getting anybody interested in using them. And then the software that was managed, the software for them was, Eli can be more specific. The company was sold and no one was updating. And we were having a terrible time getting any response on when things didn't go well. And we ended up, they just were never fully utilized because of multiple negatives. And we didn't add them at Traverwood because of our experience with them at Pittsfield. And I don't think, honestly, it came up at all in a conversation about them at Westgate. Is that fair, Eli?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at Pittsfield at one point, we had probably a 2-year outage on one of these units, just in the time it was taking us to try to get someone to service them, things like that. So now that the companies have changed hands a couple times, we have a much better service relationship. We've also gotten more of the parts that failed so that we have spare parts on hand, like when the keyboard fails. But we had a big problem at Pittsfield with, Len was talking about the wind from a particular direction. The keypad at Pittsfield would fail over and over again because it would get grit blown into it in a way that other locations didn't. But I think the big thing is with both of these expansions, we have a whole new audience for these now. We have hundreds and thousands of patrons who have never used these services prior to this outage. And now they're going to use them, and now they are aware of them. And also how our service model adapts to how we handle pickups when we stop doing pickup appointments someday. These will be much more integrated into the process than they would have been before. Where before it's kind of a secret service. And afterwards, it'll be something that a lot more people are aware of and a lot more people are asking about.
And there is no wall downtown that lends itself to this right now in a place where we can actually use the space effectively. We don't have any, we just don't have it. So right now, so we talked this through in every which way we can, and we can't recommend a place in the downtown library for this to occur. Right under current usage, we don't have it.
Great. Do we have any other questions for Len or Josie? Okay, great. Thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to a roll call vote then.
Okay. Trustee Ackman?
Yes.
Trustee Green?
Yes.
Trustee Kleinman?
Yes.
Trustee Moore?
Yes.
Trustee Song?
Yes.
Trustee Vanderbroek?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Len.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. All right, Eli, do we have citizens' comments?
Let me double check a couple of places here. Nothing on YouTube. Let me make sure nothing has come in via email. Let's see. No, someone wants a financial robot to make us very wealthy. I don't think that's what they intended. Okay, nope, no other comments have come in. We're all set.
Great. Well, thank you. I think the pace was pretty good. We're at 8:45. Look at us.
Good practice for you, Lynn, with the next role you play.
Yeah.
This is full of coffee. Well, thank you, everyone. That was a fantastic meeting. I'll just go ahead and adjourn it. We'll see you next month.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night to Dharma's dog, who's awesome.
Yes, and I want to say I'm glad I shut my door to the outside because my local coyote pack is now talking, and that might not have been as fun to listen to as birds.